You're listening to the Good for Business podcast, where we feature interviews, tips, and tricks from owners, operators, and innovators throughout Mississippi and around the world. And now, your host, Colin Krieger. Welcome to this week's show. We're here with Colonel Jesper Stubbendorff from Columbus Air Force Base. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Colin. Thanks for having me. Excited to be a part.
We're going to talk all things Columbus Air Force Base today, but first, I want to hear a story about little Jesper. Did you grow up in the fjords of Canada, Europe? Where are you from?
Something like that. So, yeah, I got a little bit of a different name. So, I was born in Sweden. Grew up in Sweden until I was 5, and then we moved over to the U.S. My dad was Swedish. My mom's American. He came over on a track scholarship training for the Olympics. They met each other, got married, went back to Sweden. Interestingly enough, he was a test pilot in the Swedish Air Force, and he did some of that. And then he wound up getting out, and he was hired by Sikorsky to be a test pilot for them over in Florida, down in South Florida. So we moved over there when I was 5, didn't speak English, learned that, grew up in South Florida, and then eventually went to the Air Force Academy. I went to the Air Force Academy, played baseball there, graduated in 2003. And then met my wife there. We got married right after graduating. And then I kind of started that Air Force journey that took me all over the U.S., all over the world. And interestingly enough, I'm here at Columbus now. It's my third time. Third time.
When was the first time here?
First time was, when I started pilot training, I did T6s. And when they first came out, that's our primary trainer we use now.
Yeah.
But when they first came out, they were Moody Air Force Base. So I started there. And then I came to Columbus for T1s, so kind of the follow-on training. And that was 04, most of 04, a little bit of 05.
Okay.
And
straight line windstorm, and then I came here at the end of 05 with Katrina. So
yep, look at
town's changed quite a bit since then.
It has.
And so is the base. The base is rocking and rolling.
Yep.
So how many bases did you have to stop in during your illustrious career?
Oh, man. My wife could tell you exactly. 13 maybe. 13 maybe different stops, but some of those involved coming back. I think it's 13 moves, so maybe 10 bases. We were at Travis twice and Columbus now 3 times.
So how many do you know off the top of your head? And I think I heard the number the other day, or maybe at the Air Force Ball. How many pilots is United States Air Force training a year? Do you know?
So the goal is to get to 1,500 pilots a year. Columbus this year, fiscal year 25, we did 344, and our goal for next year is 425.
So pretty good odds that if somebody stays in the instructor pilot program, about half of them are going to come through here. Is that a safe number to say?
A little under a third, probably. So there's 3 main pilot training bases, and then you've got NJEPT, which does a few too. Also, it's Euro-NATO, so a lot of our partners in Europe, and then some U.S. pilots there too. But the primary ones are Columbus Air Force Base, Vance Air Force Base, and Laughlin Air Force Base.
There you go. So if a youth is in ROTC or anything in high school, and what's their first step to get in the Air Force? Do you know off the top of your head what it is today? Is walk on up to the base, or you go to the recruiting station, or what do you do?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways, right? You can join the Air Force. One is you can enlist, and that's right out of high school, and you would go through a recruiter, and then you go to basic training, which is at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, and you can join that way. If you want to go the officer route, then you would need to get a 4-year degree. And you could do that. You can enlist first and then go to, most of that would be officer training school. So you can go to the Air Force Academy. That's how we get a good portion of them. You can also go to ROTC, like you mentioned, at a university. Or you can just go to school normally and then through officer training school. So then you go to OTS at Maxwell Air Force Base, and then you can join that way. So they're kind of the 3 primary ways that you would become an officer in the Air Force.
Okay. And am I correct now, given what year it is and amount of sorties, Columbus Air Force Base is we say the busiest training Air Force base in the country?
It's top 5.
Top 5?
Busiest airfields, yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. How many planes do we have flying up there?
We have a little over 200 airplanes at Columbus.
And new ones coming in? New ones are on the way? Is that the promise
T7's
right
supposed to be coming August of 27 is when that should be getting here.
So if I'm my buddy Mike Talley's house on Friday afternoon having an adult beverage, are we going to see a cool new plane flying over there?
Come August of 27, that's the plan.
August of 27. So that'll be nice.
Moving forward. Yeah.
They're cool.
We're excited about it.
And so the average instructor pilot who comes through the base, so like I say they go to training at Laughlin, they come here and y'all have the more terminology than anybody in the world. more anacronyms
Acronyms.
than anywhere in the world. If they're coming here on their stop, are most of the guys coming, this is something I don't even understand, how long are they committed to the Air Force?
After you graduate pilot training, 10 years.
10 years.
10
okay.
years.
So a commander like yourself, though, you'll end up like you're going to be early 40s and have a chance to retire from the Air Force normally?
That's right. If normal, right? Start college at 18, graduate at 22, go in the Air Force, 20-year career, 42, you could be retired in 20 years.
Or just hang out here forever, right?
That's right. You could do up to 30 or more.
And so I assume there's a decent amount that they get 10 years in, then they go fly for Delta or fly for some other company. Is that correct?
That's right.
It's not a bad gig. Not a bad gig. Let's talk a little about life here in town. So you've been, how long since you got here in your position as you have now?
3 months.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it already seems like longer. And how many children do you have?
5 kids.
How are they enjoying Mississippi? What was the stop before here, though?
Texas. We came from San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
So it's hot there, kind of a dry heat. Here's kind of a wet, humid heat.
Yes.
But like I said, third time through, so we're used to it in some regards. 5 children, 3 of which were born here, right at Baptist Hospital. So,
okay.
So they're locals, maybe.
Yeah,
some
sort of.
stops in between, but yeah, they were born here, and yeah. So it's good to be back.
I've been here 20 years, but there's little old ladies in big white houses that say I'm not from here because I've only put 20 years of time in. I have 2 of my 3 kids were here, and one of them was born up.
You don't have the accent.
No, so. I can't. I can do multiple fake Cajun accents to sell a house, or Cajun and country accents to sell a house. So if I go back to New Orleans for a couple weeks, I'll come back and be like baby and darling and kissing every woman that walks up. And if I have to talk to somebody about buying a farm out here, I'm going to go ahead and draw it up a little bit. That's what you got to do to get the houses sold. But my involvement with the base probably started right when I got here. Sonic Johnson was the public affairs guy. I went on with Papa John's, and we had to get more than one driver on the base. And then that discussion led to him. I think at that time, the Base Community Council was just kind of getting started, and there's also a military affairs committee. So there's 2 separate ways that the community can get involved with the base, other than I think there's special events you can sponsor. There's the air show and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Since you've been here 3 times, and I'm guessing that's at least 4.5 years, what have you seen about the impact of not just the base on everyone, but the community at the base compared to other bases? Yeah,
so one of the strengths, I think, of Columbus Air Force Base community is the local community. How much you invest in the base, care for our airmen on and off the base, and take care of them. We have the pilot partner welcomes, right, where local businesses, community sponsors would sponsor a class. And so that provides a great meeting local people, input on people you can reach out to and get help with different things here. So a lot of the students that come here, it's their first stop in the Air Force out of their commissioning source, so out of their ROTC or out of the Air Force Academy or OTS, they come here. So their first impression of the Air Force, more or less base-wise, is here. And community plays a big role in making that impression and doing a good job there. And the way we're moving now, it's a short stint sometimes, but you want to become a part of the community. A lot of the pilots are married, so they have a spouse. Some have children, right? And you want to be able to embed them right away into the community so it doesn't feel like a temporary or a transition thing. And you want to be a part of the community. So it's super important to, help the spouses find employment, help the kids find schools and daycares and the things they need there. And then you want to enjoy it, right? Pilot training can be stressful. So you want to provide a good opportunity for them to be able to relax and focus on their studies and not be stressed by other means. And the community does a great job, helping with housing and food and support and all those things. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can speak to this, but there's been a huge change, at least in the last 10 years, from the outside point of view of the actual training. The guys used to come here and we would say, hey, they're here for like 2 years. They're learning how to fly. And I think we're probably 30 years removed from, and I know it's not the Air Force, from the Top Gun scenario, where they're going out to the bars every night and partying. And there's a whole generation of young ladies here that married pilots.
Yeah.
And it still happens. But the guys are pretty busy now. Their guys and women are getting in and out of the program in way less than 2 years now, correct?
That's right. Yeah, so we can back it up a little bit. Columbus Air Force Base, the way we understand it now, has been training pilots since 1969, right? First class was 7001. So for the past 55 years, we've been training pilots in this kind of UPT structure. And now, just kind of recently, we've started making some changes to pilot training. There've been some, right? It used to be everyone flew the T-37 and then the T-38, and then the T-1 came online, and then the T-6 replaced the T-37, and now, as you mentioned, we have the T-7 coming. So there's been some small changes, but by and large, it hasn't changed a lot. And so here, in the past year or so, we've changed pilot training a little bit to try to get to that goal of producing 1,500 pilots a year. We weren't quite getting that number, and our nation, the world needs it. And the Air Force is changing as a whole too, right? Technology's changing, the adversaries are changing, the airplanes we're flying, as we mentioned, are changing. So we were due for some sort of a change. And so yeah, the traditional pilot training where you would go and you would fly the T-6 for roughly 6 months, and then the T-1 or the T-38 for 6 months. You'd be here for a total of 13, 14 months, something like that. With the training, getting here and before you leave, has now changed to, we call it the FUPT, Future of Undergraduate Pilot Training.
Yeah.
And so essentially now you're going to go out to civilian school in initial pilot training, and you're going to do about 4 or 5 months there, get it roughly 129 hours. You're going to get your single engine, multi-engine ratings, your instrument rating, and then you're going to come back here for a shortened T6 portion. And what we've done is we've let the civilian partners do the things that they do well. Train you how to start an engine, how to taxi, how to take off, how to land, how to fly instruments, how to talk on their radios. And then when you come here and start the T6 program, we can focus on the military aspects, the advanced aerobatics, the formation, and making you a military aviator. So you do that. And then depending on what you're going to go fly, if you're going to go fly fighters or bombers, you'll stay here and fly T-38s. But if you're going to the mobility air forces or some of the special operations platforms, you'll leave right here to those formal training units. So whereas every student pilot was here for 12 to 14, 15 months maybe, now you might physically just be in Columbus for 4 months, since we're doing some of that portion of IPT outsourced. So it's changed a lot, and there's change and flux, and it makes it harder on families, and we still need to make sure we get the same product at the end of the day, because we can't afford to graduate less qualified, less capable pilots.
Well, I think there's always, I want to call them prejudice or misconceptions from the public about the Air Force, but most people are thinking F-22 and the bombers. Can you talk about the other planes and other aircraft and stuff that pilots are being trained to fly? Because I think most people don't understand support roles, not even active duty stuff, refueling planes, C-130s, all that sort of thing. How many planes other than the F-22 and the B-2 do your guys end up with when they come out of the program or become, not active duty, but full-time Air Force guys?
Yeah, no, there's a lot, right? And the majority of the pilots won't go to fly fighters or bombers. They're going to go fly what we call mobility aircraft, and those primarily cargo and tankers. For myself, I'm a tanker pilot. KC-10s was my primary weapon system. So there's a lot of airplanes, and then there's all sorts of oddities and that come off of that. And some platforms you need to go and fly something first, and then you can go specialize. Right? Very rarely do people they don't go straight to the B-2. You'd go fly the B-1, the B-52, something like that, and then you could go specialize down the road. Or for example, the U-2, you wouldn't go straight to that. You would go fly something else and then move to that. So there's a lot of airplanes like that. But yeah, there's a lot of airplanes. And so Columbus had an air show recently before I showed up. So that's a great opportunity where there's a lot of airplanes out. You can come see them, walk on them, climb on them, talk to the maintainers and operators that run them, and get to see. But there's a lot of airplanes out there.
And speaking of the other misconception that I run across all the time, can you speak to all the other people on the base? Because we're in the high 2,000s or 3,000 people on the base.
Yeah, over 3,000.
Yeah, and not all of them. If you only get 1,500 pilots coming through, people are doing. The support staff's incredible, and a large portion of it is civilian. Correct?
That's right. Yep, there's a lot. So the primary mission of Columbus Air Force Base is to train world-class pilots, and that's what we do. In order to do that, you need all sorts of support and things to enable that. Right, so we have 3 big runways out here. One's 12,000 feet, 2 miles long, and then 2 other runways. And so everything on the base revolves around that, right? Graduating student pilots. Every 3 weeks we have a graduation where we graduate roughly mid-20s number of student pilots for our Air Force that are going to go out and fly those airplanes. But to make that happen, it takes a village, in this case a community, Columbus Air Force Base, and the town of Columbus, right? So we have 3 main groups on the base. Operations group, which is the operations, the flying portion. We have the mission support group, which supports that. So think housing, think youth center, think daycare for the kids, think all the food, all the support functions. Kind of the face of the base is a mission support group. And then you have the medical group, right, to make sure that everyone on the base is healthy and the pilots are ready to go up and fly and they're getting the care that they need. Medical group. And then typically at bases, you would have a maintenance group as well. Here, our maintenance is contracted out, maintenance. But so a lot of contractors, civilians that work to support flight line ops to make sure the airplanes are fixed, they're fueled, they're ready to go. So it takes a big machine to make one pilot. A lot of time, a lot of investment, and nobody does it better than Columbus Air Force Base.
Well, I've seen it, and I compare it often to our industrial sector here. The big industrial park we have here is $15 billion worth of buildings, and most people have just driven by it. And with the exception of the air show, they don't get to see everything going on there. You've got, I'd say a small city, but when you have 3,000 to 5,000 people at noon on Wednesday is a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Columbus has 23,000 people, but at noon on Wednesday, there's about 60,000 people driving by Chick-fil-A and the main corridor. So y'all have that sort of small city. Can you talk about the economic impact? I like to say, people say, well, if it was a business. Well, just because it's the federal government, it is a business. There's private contractors out there making money. There's people are buying houses from the money they make there. Do you have any idea of the roundabout number of that?
So fiscal year 24, I think it was $547 million was the economic impact of the base to Columbus.
It's pretty big.
It is.
It's $500 million. I'm going to go with the B on that. It's a $500 million impact, which is huge. And again, 3,000 to 4,000 people once you factor everybody coming on base. That's huge.
Yep.
People, it's almost inconceivable to say, okay, well, we're going to pick another industry that has something that big. You're talking university level. You're talking major. Both Baptist Hospital would be a similar impact.
Yeah.
Now that they've bought the Baptist, should be closing in a couple days. I'm looking at my phone for the thing on the hospital over in Starkville, and that's people may not have that idea of it again because you just can't stroll onto the base every day and bother you.
That's right. I mean, it's like we said, over 200 airplanes. I think 211 airplanes currently on the base. Right, we fly over 200 sorties a day, roughly 1,000, 1,200 takeoff and landings every day, one of the busiest airports in the world, and that's a Tuesday for us, So it's, it takes a team to make sure that happens. It's not easy, and but yeah, there's a lot of things going on over there. I think you ask some of the residents that they'll hear stuff going on, right? They hear the airplanes over their houses, but yeah.
We let's move forward to how we get involved with the base. So there's a public affairs department in the base. There's a little magazine. They do events that people can sponsor. The big ones, of course, air show. This was our off year. Next year, I think we'll have another one. Is usually how it goes, unless COVID gets in the way. But the main ones are the base community council, which if you need to find out about that, call me. They come out there usually every other month or every quarter, depending on when it fits into the schedule. And then there's a military affairs committee, which, as you said, runs the pilot partner welcome nights, which tries to connect businesses with the pilots. And again, that's changed over the last 10 years because we used to have them for almost 18 months. And so you get to throw a pizza party for them and meet them. And now it's a little bit of a moving target because they may come in, on a Tuesday and they're just work, and it's a pretty serious operation. But I tell people one of the most inspiring things to go is to go to assignment nights and things where you see some guys are getting to live their dream and go after some crazy jets. I think most of them, and if I'm correct, when they're up there a week or two, they may have already learned, I'm not to get an F-22 program or anything like that. But I've been up there before when, I saw an F-22 parked on the runway and I'm like, it's going to be a good night tonight.
Yeah.
They're coming to get them. Can you talk about the importance of each one? I know you've been to both. The base community council now has grown real big, and they've started to have more and more people eat. So we go up there. It's like a Wednesday at lunch. Sometimes you'll have an educational moment or a tour of the base that we had last time. But there's usually they sit us at the table. So there's 40 members of the community and 45, 50 Air Force people. We get to sit with you, interact with you, and then y'all have done a great job of acknowledging, high flyer, or whoever's doing the best job that week, and explaining some of the lingo we don't understand. So again, I've spent 20 years at the base, but only 11 days a year or 15 days a year. So I'm still, and then of course once I understood all the lingo, they just changed the names of everything to make it confusing. Can you talk about your experience at least with those two groups?
Yeah. So the base community council, great group, supports the base. We work together, let you know what we're doing so you can help get that out to the community, help the community get involved. Super important. For example, the last one that we just had, the Base Community Council, was we opened Starbase, right, where local schools can come on base and do the STEM type activities and do that. And we're super proud and super excited to have that. And again, another way to get the community on the base to see what we're doing, because what we're doing is important, right? It's important for our nation. It's important for the world. And so the more we can get interaction with the base or with the community on the base is really important. Military Affairs Committee, again, another group that helps support the base. The best way to get involved or help with them is through the Columbus Lowndes Chamber of Commerce. Miss Carrie Martin there, she's a director of that. And they sponsor pilot training classes. Typically 1 or 2 community partners will sponsor a class. And you're right, they kind of shepherd them through the program. They would come to their assignment night. They actually provide the first set of wings that they get with their name engraved on the back. That's super neat. And we're super grateful for the communities to do that. And AFA plays a part with that. I know you had Sonic Johnson on here previously, former PA director. So the community does a great job of supporting the base, supporting the students. And for example, I was 0506 here, my class number. So the 6th class in the 2005 fiscal year is what those numbers mean, 6th graduating class. And the Kiwanis Club was one of our community partners. And I just had the opportunity to, 21 years later, to go back and 20 years later to go back and talk with them about the impact they had in our class. And it was neat to share with them what all the different individuals in our class are doing now and where they're at. And so you get that tie. It just makes you feel like home. If you need something, hey, I need help with a plumber or a mechanic if I'm living off base, or I need to get something fixed on my car. You have people you can reach out to and go to, and then sometimes those relationships last for 20-something years. So it's great. It's important. And the more the base feels involved, invested with the community, and the more the community feels involved and invested with the base, I think that makes for a partnership, makes for a great relationship. And as you know, in business and in everything we do, relationships is what matters.
Well, also in the big picture part of recruiting for the Air Force, and I can only speak to you personally from this, but I grew up in New Orleans proper. We had an ROTC at my Catholic high school, but we had 230 kids in our graduating classes, and 230 of them just went to college. Even though we had ROTC, nobody was going to join the Air Force Academy. My daughters have grown up here, all 3 daughters, exposed to the base. We've had, whatever, since I've been really active, 7 different commanders. And Samantha Weeks was here, who's a Thunderbird pilot. Mm-hmm. And I make a point when I see women in leadership roles in the community that my daughter's going to see them. And now my daughter's at MSMS, and part of her 5 interest thing is the Air Force Academy. Because it's tangible. It's right here. We see that it's important. You see people in the community. You see them when you eat out to dinner. And she's been to air shows and been to events on base. And I can't speak enough about that, about seeing people in the community, and, of course, seeing women, female pilots and female engineers and female mechanics, of knowing that that's something tangible she can get out and reach for, as opposed to the commercial during the football game or something, which both matter, but I think both are interesting. And we can speak a little, I don't know how far we can go on it, but about how the Base Community Council and the Military Affairs, both, there's people, a lot of people on both groups, can fill in the blanks and pick up things when there's stuff that the base can't do. So not necessarily funding, but when there's things, we talk about reciprocal licensing. Mm-hmm. You're talking about wives coming in or husbands coming in that are a nurse. And you literally have had to fight. These are mainly oversights by most states where they say, well, they're a registered nurse here. They should just be able to come and be a nurse here. And you just think everybody thought of that 30 years ago. They haven't. It's been quite a jump. And sports has been another thing that's been, I say, flared up the last couple of years. But we have big, tall, strapping young men such as yourself who have big, young, strapping kids. And you show up in August and they're like, well, your kid can't play football. And it seems like such a simple thing, but sometimes it takes the community to work with the base to solve issues like
100%, yeah. And the community here is great. Right. For example, I have a senior. So last night was senior night for Caledonia High School. So I have a senior. It's her 4th high school in 4 years. That's something that we've put her through, right? That's tough. We also have a freshman on the team. Those tryouts happened the previous year, so you can work out in the summer. So I had to call the school, reach out. Hey, we're moving here. Can we, we work with them. You able to work things out, but it takes a lot of work on the member. And I've been in this for 22 years, so I kind of know. Hey, we're getting ready to move. I got to find soccer club for my son, volleyball for my girls, and get the schooling set up and all those things. So the more the base is involved, people are involved and invested, it helps. For example, recently the law was passed where on the base you can attend any school in the county, and that was nice, right? Currently, there's a lot of people that do homeschool on the base, right? And right now in Mississippi, homeschoolers can't play local sports with the high schools, and some other states that can. So I would love to see that get worked on and try to get changed where, on average, there's 2 to 3 times as many homeschool families in the military as there is outside the military. And so it's a constant work, a constant progress. But the more the people are involved with the base, they see that they're real people and things change. And the one thing about the military is, right, we talk about the mission and the people. What's more important, or what comes first, right? Well, the mission's the most important. That's why we wear the uniform. That's why we go deploy. That's why we go do difficult things where you put your lives on the line. But the people matter. And that's where leadership can play a big role, is taking care of the people. When you're going to do the mission, you want to know that your family's being taken care of, that they have the resources they need to continue with school, to see the doctors, to get the help and care they need. And like I said, community, we've been around a lot of communities. Not many do it as well as Columbus does.
Well, that's another reason for people to come involved with the thing. I tell them, I was like, if you want to meet any of your state elected officials, come to the BCC luncheon because they're going to be there. But it's also a good time for them to hear somebody from the base go, my kid didn't get to play football, and every time I hear a story like that, I see Senator Chuck Younger's face go, why not?
Yeah.
And it seems like such a simple thing, and then he's got to go down and do all the parliamentarian operations to make something happen. Sometimes it's a secretary at school you have to get by, but it's good to hear that sort of communication. It makes it real. I like to say I go to the BCC luncheons and pilot night for energy. Remember, rah, 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 USA sort of stuff, because it is our best and brightest there. And again, I will say this, I'm at night and graduation stuff, like you might tear up, and they're a little less rowdy than they were 10 years ago. Again, but it's another thing to see, like, I don't like to say your tax dollars in action, but like America in action. You know? I think, people may have a perception of the Air Force the same way they might have about like the Marines or grunts or stuff walking through there. A lot of these kids in this officer program, when they get out of there, they're doing grown-up jobs. You know what I mean? Like, these are super sharp kids. We say in real estate all the time when we get them, and a lot of them just need to rent. But the ones that know they're staying for that elusive 3 to 5 years, we're like, only question I ask my assistant or ask another agent, I'm like, is this Top Gun or engineer? Yeah. Like, which one are we getting? Are we getting the guy that isn't going to read anything, or I just have to hand him a binder full of information and his wife's going to buy the house?
Yeah.
And those sort of profiles fit pretty good for most of the guys on base. Like, all of them are, for a great part, of course, credit score is great, meticulous, organized, but to say what you were speaking about, the homeschool thing, especially after COVID, I don't know the percentage. I'd pin it at least 20%, but a lot of the families, I think, when they're moving through the process at the base and going to different bases, I think at some point they're like,
yeah, it's hard switching schools, registering, and so you can control your schedule. You can take vacation or leave when it works for, the military members' schedule, and so homeschools, it's a big deal, and
Yeah, we have a magnet school here called MSMS, Mississippi School for Math and Science, and the outgoing commander, or the last commander, Colonel Grieve, and Jim Weinstein, the Med Group commander, both had their kids there at once. Yeah. Jim still got a kid there, and they're super involved, and that's become our discussion over the last year is like, well, we need to make some exceptions on this deadline. It's the best school in Mississippi, and it's 20 minutes away from the Air Force Base, and we're bringing some of the best kids in the country here.
That's right. Yeah, it's a kind of a mutual relationship, right?
Yeah, and you said, just give us – I understand if it's September you can't break into an exclusive school, but, like, if it's June, can we at least have a discussion or 1 or 2 spots for the people, because it's another – I don't know about an enticement. Like, I don't think you'll get to pick every base you go to, but further on in your career, you could be like, could I maybe go to Columbus? And if you knew the school was there and knew it was available,
100%.
Another wonderful thing. And I think over the last year, I've seen more involvement with Mississippi State and, of course, our airport with the university. Yeah. So can you speak about that, about the involvement with the local – I know do y'all land occasionally at the Golden Triangle Airport?
We do quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, we have memorandums of agreements. We go over there, do a lot of our training, and a lot of our training happens out in the community. I said one of the busiest airfields in the world, but we still can't get everyone in there and get all the training we need. So we go out to, Tupelo, some Greenwood, Golden Triangle, a lot of different airfields and do a lot of our training there. And again, community support and involvement. You don't even think about it that way necessarily, but we couldn't do our mission without some of those agreements and partnerships.
Is that another strength of Columbus Air Force Base? Is a huge airspace to play with. Is that correct?
That's right.
I've heard the size of South Carolina or something. Is there a number you can throw out there?
I'm not sure of the acreage
it's
or
big.
Of the different MOAs, military operating areas, and ranges and those things, but it is big. And if you look at where most pilot training bases are, right, they're not in the metropolis, downtown Chicago or San Francisco or Miami, right? There are areas where you've got a lot of airspace and can do a lot of work, and that's important. So
we don't hear many complaints here about the sound. We always alert people if they live on Ridge Road right by the base, like you're going to hear some jets and stuff, but it's not overbearing.
We like to call that the sound of freedom.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I would imagine if you're at Laughlin Air Force Base and you live next to the base, you're going to get woken up a few times.
Yeah.
But not here. Any special things we need to talk about the base? Anything on your list that we need to get out there?
I mean, just continue to support, right, and come learn about the base, get engaged. When you see airmen off base, go up and talk to them and figure out what's going on and just keep being inclusive. I said our mission is to train world-class pilots. We have two kind of main lines of effort, leading through change and taking care of airmen and families. And we've talked a lot about taking care of airmen and families here a little bit, and then leading through change. We mentioned that, right? Pilot training's changing. The world's changing. Aircraft are changing. Our adversaries are changing. And quite frankly, the young airmen are changing too, right? It's a different world. They grew up with cell phones. We didn't grow up with cell phones, right? They're able to grab data quicker, understand things better, multitask if that's a thing you can really do, right? But they're able to do those things and decipher information. And so we're trying to update our training to make the best pilot we can with the resources we have available. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to come on and share the message and what we're doing at Columbus Air Force Base. I think it's important for every American to know what's happening in their community and then what's happening with the Air Force at large. And it's an exciting time to be part of the Air Force. Like I said, a lot of changes and doing everything we can to be as prepared and ready for any challenges, any opportunities that we're called upon to execute.
On the training part of it, I'm going to stop. It almost sounds like we're getting off. I won't get off yet. How integral is the SIMS program becoming in the training now?
Simulators?
Yes.
Yeah, it's huge.
Huge.
Right. Part of this new syllabus, we're cutting some of the sorties in the T6 and putting a lot more things in the simulator because they're that good, they're that advanced, they're that real. Right. For example, if you go to Delta, the first time you're going to fly the airplane is with passengers on it. Right. We're not quite doing that here, but and that's a different type of pilot, different person they're dealing with. But simulators is huge. It can't really replace that seat in the pants feeling of something's quite not right, or the reality of if we don't do this procedure, execute appropriately, someone could die, right? But the training is real. It's really good. You can get all the feels, all the senses, and work on a big thing we work on is your instrument cross-check, kind of the basics of flying and doing those things, and certain parameters that are required for certain maneuvers. You can certainly do those really well in the simulator. So it's a big part.
Well, I would imagine that's incredibly important now to have the state-of-the-art future stuff in the sims. And some of the planes on the base that they're cycling through now are a little bit older, but it might sound like an old Cadillac flying off. But that mechanical part of flying is always going to be part of flying. And I guess it's unless you're flying a drone or something like that. But like I said, I've been on the C-130 or something from the air show and just heard the noises going on. And I've heard pilots speak about, like, you better hear, you can feel this is wrong or it's not grabbing right. So my favorite part in my whole experience with the Air Force Base here was the air show before COVID. They had this big party out at Graham's Camp House, and instructor pilots are all looming around, and the commanders are coming in, and then like F-22 guys come in their fancy jackets or whatever, and everybody's like, they come in, and then like the stunt pilots come in, and the F-22 guys are giving deference to them. Uh-huh. Then the guy that owns the Soviet MiG comes in, and all of them are asking for his autograph, and I'm almost thinking, like, wouldn't it be like the F-22 guys be the peak of existence? But it went almost like that. They're like, he's flying that cool wreck of an old plane and doing flips and stuff. So it was neat for me to see that, and it's neat to see the respect from private pilots when we have stuff here at the local airport, and that they know. And of course, there's such a huge tie-in with the Air Force on training so many pilots who end up being Delta. I had a cousin who walked out of Top Gun and joined the Navy in like 1985. And he did his 20 years at Delta, and now he's flying somewhere in Alaska or doing something. Hi, cousin Jeff. How are you doing? But that's what he talked about. He's like, he is half the pilots I talk to are either Air Force or Navy.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a shared experience there that they can share with the world.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about coming into pilot training. You might have an idea of what you think you want to go fly, and then you actually get in the jet, and you realize you like this or you don't like this, or, and then you talk to all the instructor pilots that are flying with you. You get their experiences, and I can tell you this. So I've never met a pilot who doesn't love the airplane they fly. It doesn't matter what it is. And then it's kind of like, I played baseball in college. All the pitchers want to hit. All the position players want to pitch, right? So a little bit what you're saying, the grass is greener sometimes, or you think it is. But yeah, aviation is a community. It's a village, and nothing's necessarily easier or harder to fly. It's all different, right? Different factors you need to take in, and you fly fighters, you go faster, you're dropping bombs. You're flying crew airplanes, you're working with the crew, working with the team, providing support to the different aircraft to make sure they have the gas or the cargo they need at a certain time. And putting a bomb on target is as difficult as putting a cargo drop on target. Just how you go about it's a little different. So I think there's respect amongst aviators, and everyone's excited about aviation, and they want to know what other people are doing, and then that makes that team that much better, right? You never go and execute a mission with just one airplane by yourself. You either got people on the ground, you got controllers helping you, you've got maintainers putting into the fight, and if you're going long, you need to get gas, and you need to make sure equipment's there, and so it takes a team, and so
it's fascinating. When I heard Colonel Grieve, our last echo commander, he's pretty famous in the aviation community because he was in an accident with a B-2. And his story of that, he started the story saying, hey, I've lit a B-2 and it crashed, and I'm really glazing over this 3-hour story. And he goes, we learned a whole bunch of stuff from it, blah, 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 but, it crashed on the runway. And I knew it was a 3-hour meeting, and I was waiting to go, oh, come on, we got to hear about him crashing on the runway. I thought he was up in the air, and I'm imagining, Soviets coming after him and all this stuff. And then 3 hours later, I blinked my eyes when we were eating lunch, and I'm like, that was absolutely fascinating, and what the decisions he had to make on the most state-of-the-art plane in the world in 14 seconds or whatever.
Yep.
And I can't imagine what goes on in every plane in between, including some of the old clunkers and bombers and C-130s, of the decisions that they have to make on a daily basis. You're not driving a Honda Accord down the road that's going to take care of itself. Well, I'm trying to inspire the youth of America to potentially join the Air Force, or at least put it on their register. Can you talk about if they're thinking about it and they're in high school, and we talked about they can walk in a recruitment office, other jobs and stuff that are available, like we talked about the med group or engineering and stuff, and how that translates into a longer career, because if you become an officer and retire at age 42, you can be looking for something to do.
That's right. Yeah, like you said, an Air Force base is like a community, like a town, like a village. So everything you need to run that village, you can find on the base or in the Air Force, right? A lot of military-specific things, maybe dealing with certain types of munitions and those types of things, but you've got everything from public affairs, finance, everyone in the medical field, security forces, defenders, logistics, maintenance, engineers. I mean, you name it, it's in the Air Force. So there's something for everyone, and everyone's just as important, right? No one goes about it alone, and you need everyone to make the mission happen. And like I said, when the flag goes up or when the president calls on us, we need to be ready, trained, and equipped to go do what we're asked to do.
Well, good deal. I appreciate you having a day. Look, people, if y'all want to get involved, find me for the Base Community Council. You can go to Carrie at the Columbus Islands Chamber of Commerce. If you're interested in sponsorship at the base or any of the events they have out there, I'll get you in touch with them. And let me know, because the only place to see these guys is at Columbus Air Force Base or Munson & Brothers. Because apparently every instructor pilot goes to Munson & Brothers. Ladies, not including my oldest daughter, Allison, you're allowed to go there. So any parting words?
Thanks for having us on. I'm super excited to be back here at Columbus. We have an incredible mission, and we'd love to share it with the community. Anyone who wants to see, contact you, contact the base, public affairs, and we'd love to show you what we do. And yeah.
All right. That's it. $500 million worth of awesomeness. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. My name is Colin Krieger and my day job is real estate. If you're looking to buy or sell, I'd love to talk to you. Or if you just want to sit and talk real estate in a no pressure situation, I'd love to help you. I work with RE/MAX Partners in Starkville, Columbus, and West Point, Mississippi. I can help you find an agent anywhere in Mississippi or anywhere in the country. Just reach out to our office at 662-327-7705 or find me anywhere when you type in 662-329-SOLD.